Hello and welcome to the Harbinger. I'm not. Oh, I am recording. Fuck. Hello and welcome to the Harbinger. I'm your host, PV, the Harbinger, here today. After recently watching the Project Hail Mary movie, and I gotta say, I'm very disappointed with this movie. Not because it was bad or anything, but because in anticipation for watching this movie, I bought and read the book. I don't like watching a movie when I know it's directly adapted from a book. For certain books where it's kind of just a inspiration instead of a direct adaptation, uh, you know, Dexter or How to Train Your Dragon or any comic book movie, those are all more like inspired. So for those, I don't really care about reading, but for Project Hail Mary, since it's directly linked to the book, I decided to give it a read. And I gotta say, this book was absolutely amazing. I loved this book. This was great. I read this book so much. I amazing book. I absolutely loved it. And since the movie was so hyped up and so like critically acclaimed as good, I was like so excited not only to read the book but also to watch the movie after finish reading the book because I really liked the book. So I was like, the movie's gonna be amazing. But sadly, by the time I actually got my hands in the book and finished reading it, the movie was out of theaters. So I was really excited to watch the movie, but I had to wait. I had to wait for it to go onto some platform that I could either rent it or buy it or just stream it. So I waited and I waited and I waited, and finally it went up on a platform, and I was able to watch it. And I was so excited to see all my favorite moments from the book be played onto the big screen. I was so excited to see all the things and like how they actually looked like, and like because my interpretation, your imagination can only go so far, especially when a book doesn't extremely detail everything out, but they say, rough things. And when I finally saw the movie, not 5 minutes in, and they completely changed everything. And this was like so disappointing to me when when by the 10-minute mark, it's like a completely different thing, right? I was just completely really disappointed because they removed some of my favorite parts, and then they also like completely changed a lot of the designs of stuff, like the layout of the ship, completely different. And then like the main character is like completely different person. And I know book versions are always going to be a little bit different. While I was reading to myself, I thought, I wonder how this part and this part are going to be portrayed on screen, because a lot of the book are flashbacks. Like almost every other chapter is a flashback. And so I thought this wouldn't really work in a movie format. You can't really have, go back forth, go back forth, go back forth in a movie. It just doesn't flow as good as it would in a book. So I was like, I wonder how they're going to solve this problem. And so I was like, okay, that's going to change. I also thought maybe they'll take out a few things that aren't as important because, I mean, there is an extremely limited time frame for most movies. This book easily could have been an extra hour or two by adding stuff. So, deleting some of the less important stuff that isn't very critical, understandable. But I was just like, I was not expecting such big changes in removals from the book to the movie. It's just like there's like some really just big things. I feel like they just skip over or just like change. Like the entire first few minutes of Grace running around the ship are completely different in the book and in the movie. In the books, Grace has to figure out that he's in space. I mean, like the first few chapters are him just trying to figure out who he is. And I really like these chapters because it shows Grace, it introduces us to this character. It shows that he is a smart guy. And, while he still doesn't have all of his memories, he doesn't really know who he is, he's still doing all this, like, very impressive and very just kind of intelligent things. And I absolutely love love these moments, but like it was completely removed from the movie. I love seeing how Grace's head works, right? He thinks in centimeters, he thinks in inches. So he's like, oh, I'm American, but I have to be some kind of scientist, or I have to work with centimeters. And I really like these things. And to just see them removed from the movie, it just was very disappointing to me. Because these are my favorite moments from the book, and they're just gone. And in the movie, it's just replaced with like a minute or two of him running around, freaking out, saying utter nonsense under his breath. And I can see what they're going for, honestly. But it's just like it's not as good. I mean, sure, he mutters under his breath, "Oh, am I smart?" when he sees one of the science thingamajigs. And then there's also the whiteboard of him like trying to figure out who he is. He has like single question mark blah blah blah. But it just does not work as good as it does in the book. Grace just runs around in a panic and then looks out the window and then gets super depressed because he's completely alone in space. He doesn't have to figure out who he is. He doesn't have to do math to figure out, wait a minute, not only am I in space, but I'm also in a completely different solar system. He doesn't test the robots to see how smart they are to figure out exactly what he's doing here. He doesn't like subconsciously move around the dead bodies of his shipmates. He doesn't do like anything that kind of like shows the brain working. And I don't know. I didn't really like that change in the movie. And these aren't like important parts, but to me this is what made the book really good. These first few moments in the book is what hooks you in. I don't know. I was just really excited to see these scenes, and it didn't happen. And I was just disappointed, honestly. Grace himself is also just kind of a different person from the book to the movie. I mean, I can kind of understand why they made these changes. They wanted him to be a little more scared. The whole point of his character is to be this man who's afraid of taking action. And throughout this journey, he becomes a little braver. And in the end, spoiler alert, he sacrifices himself to save Rocky. I mean, he doesn't die, but he's still willing to sacrifice himself, but whatever. So, making Grace a little more scared in the beginning of the movie makes sense, and I can understand why they would make that change. But I just didn't really like it. The book kind of had no problem with Grace's character. His arc of becoming braver and being able to take responsibility and be able to do something is actually a little better in the book, in my opinion. Even if he doesn't start out as this complete scaredy cat in the books, he actually does still have to make a big decision. So changing him to be more scared just didn't really vibe with me. He sacrifices more in the book than he does in the movie. In the movie, he doesn't have this big decision of I can either go save Rocky and die, or I can go back to Earth and live. I don't know. I just think this character change just wasn't very good, and I didn't really enjoy it that much. Another big moment with like the character being different is when Grace sees Rocky's ship for the first time. Book Grace was really excited. At first, she thought it was just another Earth ship. And then he realized that it couldn't be an Earth ship. So he gets really excited that there's an intelligent alien species that isn't human. And he just like this super scientific guy. He's really into science, right? These things are like would be massive to a scientist. A real scientist would be amazed by this. They would be, oh my gosh, how does this work? How did that work? Like, they would absolutely love it, and that's what happens in the book. But in the movie, Grace's reaction is to instantly run away, which again showing that Grace is afraid, which is understandable, but I feel like that's just not as good. It's not as good. And it's just throughout the book, we see Grace getting really excited about dyes. I mean things. I accidentally put dyes instead of things. Especially when he first meets Rocky, and they change his character so much, and I felt like it's just like this huge mischaracterization of the book character. And I know it's two different things, so it's two different characters, but I feel like it's just it felt like a different character. It just I didn't like it genuinely. Like throughout the movie, I was like, he doesn't know he why he wouldn't say that. He wouldn't do that because I'm so attached to this book character that when I see what is supposed to be the book character doing stuff the book character wouldn't do, I get upset at it. So I don't know. I didn't like that change from the book to the movie. And then like the overall feels from the movies to the books is like completely different. I feel like the movie's a lot more lighthearted. Maybe that's because I already know what's gonna happen, so the stakes aren't as big since I know everything's gonna be good in the end. But I feel like the movie is trying to be a lot funnier than the books were. The book had its funny moments, but there is like a massive focus on Earth going to absolute hell while the sun is slowly losing its energy. And that's just like not at all in the movie. We literally see Strout laughing at the videos Grace sent, and then being like, "All right, everyone, let's get to work." And like this kind of like lighthearted music plays. And while we don't see Earth in the book after Grace leaves it, we know based on what is said in the book that a lot of Earth environment is just ruined. A bunch of ice caps were destroyed. Most of Africa was destroyed to breed some astrophage, and then Strout generally just pissed off a lot of the government. And there was a lot of talk about Strout going to jail after the Project Hail Mary ship was launched. So like all that being glossed over in the movie just it really bummed me out, and it gives a different feel to it. It doesn't feel like, oh, he messes up, the entire Earth is just gonna basically burn, right? Because there's going to be war, there's going to be fighting, there's not going to be enough food, and then humanity is going to be extinct. And then, seeing the movie just be, all right, everyone, let's get to work. It's just, I don't know. I don't like that change. Overall, I'm just completely disappointed with this movie because I was looking forward to it so much, and I love the book so much. And when I watched the movie, I had the book in mind. Maybe if I read the book after, I would have liked the movie more. Again, it's not a bad movie, but it's like comparing Godzilla Minus One to How to Train Your Dragon. How to Train Your Dragon isn't a bad movie, but when you compare it to Godzilla Minus One, it just doesn't stack up. And that's how I feel about this book. This book is just like it's such a good book, and the movie, it's just it's all right. It's good. Tell me below what you think about the book and the movie. If you've read the book first, tell me what you think. If you watched the movie first, tell me what you think. If you just watched the movie or just read the book, tell me what you think. I don't know. I'm very interested in seeing how people's perspective of the book changes. Remember to reap what you sow. Bye bye.